Hello, I'm Laura Anderson, and I love to read. And one of my favorite things to do is to share this love of reading with young children. I also love to teach children how to read as well. And one of the things that they need to do in order to have the tools for effective reading is have an understanding of phonics, letter sounds, and how they can be combined to decode and recognize words. I'm going to start first with some overall statements about the teaching of phonics and what you as teachers can do to make effective lessons in the area of phonics for young children. First of all, think about teaching consonant sounds first. Consonants are those letters which stay pretty standard. You know that most times they're going to make the same sound whenever you encounter them in words. Unlike vowels, which can change depending on the context, the other letters that surround them. So the consonant sounds are really the first ones that you should address when you're teaching children letter sounds in this area of phonics. And then when you do introduce vowels, introduce short vowels before long vowels. There are a couple of reasons for this. First of all, there are more words that are in the English language that contain short vowels than words that have long vowel sounds. In addition to that, short vowel sounds remain fairly consistent. And so if you can teach them consonants first and then incorporate some of the short vowel sounds, you're ready for the next step, which is to combine the two into actual words that they can read. For example, if you've introduced the letter sound of the T, t, and then the short O sound, ah, and then the sound of the P, p, put together, that will make the word top. Very simple word using consonant sounds and using short vowel sounds. Spend only about 10 to 15 minutes each day on phonics. You can address other areas of reading as well, but this cornerstone that you can build word identification skills and decoding skills on to help them recognize words should be addressed about 10 to 15 minutes a day. And now the second thing is, what phonics skills should I teach? If you look into teacher textbooks that are on reading for young children, you will see that there are 50 plus rules about phonics patterns and pronunciation of different letter combinations. But in addition to that, there are so many words that are exceptions to this rule. So research has shown us that there are definite patterns that are pretty consistent. We don't really call them rules because there are still exceptions, but they're called generalizations. For the most part, generally, they will keep the same sound. And so I've already mentioned one, and that is starting with beginning consonant sounds in words because they remain pretty consistent. Teach the C rule. There are two sounds for the C. One is the soft C sound that you hear in S, and the other is the hard C sound that would make the sound of K. So it's in essence the S sound and the K sound. So that's the second generalization. The third one is the G rule. The soft G, which makes the sound of the J, J, and the hard G sound, which makes the guttural sound of the G, G. The next one is the consonant vowel consonant pattern, where they have a letter that's a consonant followed by a vowel followed by a consonant, which typically makes a short vowel sound in the middle. Then we have vowel digraphs, where you have a consonant, two vowels together followed by another consonant, and then the vowel consonant silent E on the end of the word as well is another generalization where typically the vowel sound is long. Let's go on now to some specific strategies that we can use to teach phonics skills. Phonemic awareness is a skill that children attain really before they come into the door of the classroom. However, teachers still need to review and to teach how this applies to reading. For example, children can probably pick up on rhyming words just from learning to talk and listening to people reading to them. They will become familiar with words that rhyme. And so you could take childhood nursery rhymes or specific words that may be in their vocabulary and talk to them about how the ending of those words are the same. And once you model this for them, they're going to be able to pick it up on their own and come up with rhyming words of their own. For example, the children's nursery rhyme, cock-a-doodle-doo, my dame has lost her shoe, my master's lost his fiddlestick, and knows not what to do. They can hear that the ending sound of cock-a-doodle-doo rhymes with shoe, and the last word do as well. Or the one hi-diddle-diddle, the cat and the fiddle, the cow jumped over the moon. The little dog laughed to see such a sport, and the dish ran away with the spoon. Having them listen to the ending word on a number of the lines, such as spoon and moon, as well as fiddle and diddle, would be an example of rhyming words. Another phonemic awareness skill where they're listening to the letter sounds in words would be segmenting the sounds. Children need to understand that words are made up by individual sounds or phonemes that are placed together. And so if they can break those apart, they're actually manipulating the sounds, which is going to help them in learning phonics later on. So you might give them words and ask them, would you please tell me the sounds in the order that you hear them in the following words? For example, chip, chip. And they could segment those to say it makes the sound, it has the sounds of ch, I, p. So there are three sounds in chip, ch, I, p. Or in the word bat, bat, b, a, t, bat. Three phonemes in bat. Or in the word tree, t, r, E. There are also three phonemes in the word tree. And finally, a third phonemic awareness skill that you can present to your children would be that of blending, where you're giving them a short rhyme, R-I-M-E, and asking them to blend it with a beginning sound. For example, if you had the word or the rhyme at, A-T, and ask them to put the sound of B, before that, they would have B at bat. Or if you had the word am, A-M, and you ask them to begin that word by adding the sound of the R, they would have ram. And then finally, all, if they added or blended the beginning sound of all by adding a W, it would make wall. All three of these, rhyming, segmenting, and blending, are phonemic awareness skills which will enable your students then to apply this to phonics skills shortly. This first strategy of teaching phonics sounds is called phonics in context. And you would begin by selecting a book that would have a number of words with the sound that you're wanting to teach. Then you would read the story and highlight the words in the story that have the phonics sound that you intend to instruct. And I have a book here, and you could have any size book. It doesn't have to be a large book like this. Pass the Cheese, Please is the book that I'm going to use to identify the words in context that contain the phonics sound that I'm going to use. I'm going to use a peep that is simply a shape that I cut out and glued to a stick that has a little window, and I'm going to use that window to peep at the words that contain the sound that I'm going to teach. Polite mice meet and say, "How do you do?" They wait and say, "After you." Polite mice are always fair. They pass the food and like to share. They have fun and never pout. They don't cry when they are out. They eat nicely at the table. They help as much as they are able. When polite mice ask for cheese, they always say, "May I, please?" Thank you. They wait their turn when they play and help each other in every way. They look carefully before they throw. Excuse me. Polite mice are nice to know. Say cheese. Now, I would then go back and I would highlight the words again and ask the students if they noticed something that was the same about all the words that were highlighted. And hopefully they would say, well, they all have the E sound in it. And I would say, that's correct. That is what we call a long E sound, but it's not always represented with the same letters. Sometimes it's represented with an EE spelling, and other times it's an EA spelling, and at least one of our words just had a single E to represent the long E sound. This next activity is one in which I'm using a number of objects to demonstrate the phonics sound that I would be teaching on a particular day. I selected objects from my house that I had that would contain the phonics sound that the students could actually see. There's nothing magic about the objects here. Just use whatever you have at your school or outside or at your house that you could collect for this particular lesson. And of course we have a cup here, and we have cereal here, and we have a car, we have a circle, we have a piece of celery, we have a carrot, and we have a candle. And I would just ask the students to place these in a bag according to the sounds that they had that were the same. Okay? So, for example, in one bag, I would want them to put the car, the candle, the cup, and the carrot, because all of those begin with the same sound. And then in the other bag, I would want them to place the celery, the cereal, and the circle. Now, once they've done this, I would then instruct them and say, you know what, you're absolutely right. All of the objects here, the celery, the cereal, and the circle, have the soft C sound. It's almost the sound of the S, and indeed it is the sound of the S because it starts with a S sound. Whereas the others in this other bag, they start with a C too, but it's a different sound. We have carrot, we have cup, we have car, and we have a candle. So they can see that the letter C actually has two different sounds, one with the soft C sound, the other one with the hard C sound. And then I could ask them to do the same thing with the words, to categorize those with whether it's a soft C sound, as in circle, celery, and cereal, or the hard C sound that they would have as demonstrated by candle, cup, and car. This next activity is called a word sort. And you can use this for a number of phonics activities. You could have them sort the words that begin the same way, or have the same middle vowel sound, or have the same ending vowel sound into various categories. But the one that I'm going to use today has to do with pattern phonics. Remember, we talked about teaching the consonant-vowel-consonant pattern, which most of the time means that the vowel sound is going to be short. And then there's another pattern that utilizes the vowel, consonant, silent E on the end, which typically means that the vowel sound is going to be long. So I would begin by giving them words such as run, line, whole, safe, bite, 9, cane, bake, pot, fox, fan, hip, pet, and cat. And ask them to sort them by their patterns, and then ask them to pronounce each one, focusing on the fact that those with the consonant, vowel, consonant pattern should have a short vowel sound in the middle, and those that end with the vowel, consonant, silent E should have a long vowel sound. Finally, the last strategy that I'm going to present is something called word families. Once a child can recognize a particular word, they may be able to use their knowledge of that word to recognize other similar words. For example, if you had the word cat and just changed the beginning letter sound of C to a B, they could say, I know the word cat, this looks like cat except for it starts with a B, so this word is probably bat. And there are lots of ways to immediately, once they realize this concept, expand their knowledge of different words in their sight vocabulary by looking for the patterns. For example, if we had the AKE family and students knew the word bake, by understanding this strategy of substituting a different letter at the beginning of AKE, they could also know rake, make, fake, and cake. And there are a host of other families of words that could be used for this particular strategy. I hope you have found some of these strategies useful and that you will be able to use them in your classrooms to give your students the tools that they need to become lifelong readers.